Hello, all spaghettis. You'll notice the dramatically different backdrop to my video. That is because I am home! So I actually made an original version of this video that had Cassie in it, because Cassie was at my house, but for some reason that file got corrupted and it didn't work, and I'm very upset about that. So I have like 2 seconds of myself and Cassie and Mitchell of video at the end. But other than that, I guess I'm just remaking this entire video, So I guess what we're talking about this week is our childhood memories of sorts. I moved around a lot. I was born in Pennsylvania, and then I moved to Florida, and then I moved to Minnesota, and I moved 3 times once I lived in Minnesota. So I got to Minnesota, and in all 3 of those places, fun fact, I had a friend who was named Ashley. My first friend was always named Ashley. They were all really bitchy, actually. They weren't very good friends, for the most part. I met some Ashleys later who were much better. I know an Ashley right now who's amazing. But the first 3 Ashleys that I met, absolutely terrible. Like, I don't know why I stayed their friend for as long as I did. Like, the first time I ever remember crying was over the first Ashley that I knew in Pennsylvania. And she, like, stole my book, I think. She wanted to read my book, and I did not want her to read my book, so she took it, and I cried. Fun first memory. So when I was a child, I actually had really, really good playmates. Like, my neighborhood kids were pretty cool. They were mostly boys, and we played a lot of video games, and we did a lot of make-believe stuff, but not, like, playing house most of the time. We had a fort that we built in my basement, and we would pretend it was the apocalypse. Fun pastimes for 9-year-olds. But we had a really epic fort in my basement. It was so cool. It took up like half the basement, and there were like tunnels you had to go through to get to like the big fort, and it was built underneath like the shelf, so it had like 4 walls and a roof type of thing, and we got like pillows and stuff under there, and then we had food, and then that attracted bugs, which ended up being kind of a problem. But while it existed, it was the most badass thing that ever existed in my childhood. And then my parents actually built me a playhouse, and then we never used it. I'm like, no, fuck that. There is this wonderful fort in my basement. We mutilated Barbies. That was always really interesting, because Cassie and I would take like a Barbie doll, and we didn't do just like the normal mutilation stuff, like, you know, chopping off their hair. Some people like melt them and stuff. We did do that. But we like took a pair of scissors, and I think this is actually me. I was a very creepy child. We like did a cut on their mouth, and we'd like cut their mouth, and we'd cut all the way back to like their ears so that their head was like split in half, and a Barbie's head is hollow. I don't know if you knew that, so you could like just kind of take the head and like bend it backwards. It was terrifying. I was completely terrified of like, what have I done? On a more serious note, I was actually often suspected of having autism as a child, as a very young child, preschool mostly, because I was reading before the age of 4, and I didn't actually really develop close friends until about 1st or 2nd grade. So I was very, very slow to develop socially, and I didn't talk very often, and I didn't really, like, smile or pretend as much as other children, and so I got taken to doctors, mostly at the suggestion of my kindergarten teacher, and it went away over time. I was pretty much just slow to develop socially. It wasn't really a disease, and it eventually faded, but it did give me a certain amount of connection with the disease of autism, because I did go through some of the treatments for it, and I know a lot about it, obviously, now. But that was an interesting thing. So that's pretty much what my childhood consisted of. It was forts in the basement, and the neighborhood boys, and books, and my imaginary friends. I was going to tell you guys about my imaginary friends, but I guess I don't really have time to do that anymore. If we ever do a day about like hobbies or something like that, I'll talk about writing, and I'll talk about my stories about my imaginary friends, because those are the first things I wrote. So I guess I will see you guys later, and I will let my 4-second clip of Mitchell, Cassie's boyfriend, send me out.
Wait, now say bye.
Now say bye.
Bye.
Okay.